again, Ruskin Bond comes back with a great book which he wove out of his magic fountain pen. Today, I am going to tell you one of my favorite stories, White Mice by Ruskin Bond. It's the story of Rusty, who is a young boy. Rusty is keen to teach his scatterbrained uncle a lesson. In this story, this is what happens. Once upon a time, in the winters in Dehra, there lived one man named Uncle Kenneth. He was uncle to one man named Rusty. Rusty was leaving him and going to Delhi. After all, he studied there. That was his home. His grandparents had asked Uncle Kenneth to leave him in the train, ensure that he has a place to sleep, and also ensure that he has a bottle of water. Okay? Said grandmother. Kenneth carried out all the instructions. He even bought a chocolate bar, consuming most of it himself while telling him the story of how he could pass his exams without much study. Well, Ruskin Bond will tell you that story soon. But for now, let's continue. After 1 hour and 2 stations, Rusty was shocked. This was the train going to Lucknow, not to Delhi. It's over 300 miles away from each other. How could Kenneth be so mean? One passenger said him to leave the station. Another passenger told him to wait until they got to Lucknow and write a telegraph to his grandparents. So there, the next early morning, it was a bright sun. A kind passenger took them to Mr. P.K. Ghosh. Mr. P.K. Ghosh was the station master and his hut was behind the railway. He had a habit of repeating certain words. Hello, hello, what's your name? My name is Rusty, sir. Something happened to me and I got stranded in Lucknow. Okay, he said after hearing the rest of the story. I'll send a telegraph to your parents. What is their address? I don't know, sir, but you can telegraph my uncle in Dehra. So that's what he did. And then they went to the hut. Mr. Ghosh said, come, I'll give you a few rasgullas and show you my family. Then they snacked on the most sweet rasgullas ever, an Indian syrup of beautiful taste. And then as they walked further into the room, it was inhabited by many white mice. There was one toy train which stretched around the room. Mice sat on it, and then Mr. Ghosh pressed a button which was near it. It flew, racing from one end to the room to the other. My hobby from many years. How do you like it? It's nice, sir. But what about the mice? Don't you like them? I like them, sir. They're an awful lot. They must be consuming many rasgullas. No, said Mr. Ghosh, a little annoyed. They don't eat rasgullas, they eat railway biscuits. Some haven't been touched for years and are too hard for our teeth. Rasgullas are for us. You can stay here, look after the mice and do whatever you want. Meanwhile, I'm going to send the telegraph to your uncle. The telegraphs here never work properly. And off marched Mr. P.K. Ghosh. After Rusty snacked on at least 2 dozens of rasgullas, he sat on the chair and began to sleep. That evening, grandfather came to pick up Rusty, and then Rusty showed him the toy train. which he adored. "A gift for you," said Mr. Ghosh while they were leaving the station and going back to Dehra. More rasgullas, thought Rusty, but when he opened the box, on a plate were two cuddly mice that were sleeping tightly. One opened the eye and snickered a bit and closed it again. That evening, when Rusty arrived home, he saw his uncle skulking in the guava orchard. He was thirsty for revenge, though his grandmother had already given Kenneth a earful. So then, after dinner that night, he released the mice. Off they crawled, straight into Uncle Kenneth's room. Then, at midnight, out jumped Kenneth from his room. Whoa, there's something wiggly in my pajamas. "Well, off with the pajamas," said grandfather, giving Rusty a wink. He had particular of an idea what was going on. After Uncle Kenneth had done a tap dance, one of the mouse emerged from under his arm, but the other refused to come out and suddenly appeared from his chin. Angry and convinced that his room was filled with mice of all the colors, he grumpily went and slept in the attic. The next day, grandfather put Rusty on the train. It was the correct one this time. Grandfather was pleased to have the mice as his pet and wrote to Mr. Ghosh to have some more. But little did grandfather know that Mr. P.K. Ghosh was fuming at the letter, thinking that Rusty had stolen his mice. Thank you, that was a wonderful story. And if you come up with any white mice, remember they eat railway biscuits. Don't give them rasgullas and upset them. And remember, definitely arrange for a toy train for them to play in. Bye bye.